Kway. I'm Karyn Pugliese, and I'm sitting in for Sierra Bettens. Welcome to InFocus. Now, in this episode, we're going behind the scenes of debunking a police investigation.
This family, for the last 2 years, both families have lived under these theories and it was like a cement weight was put on them. And I wanted to know, based on experts who actually know boating and water and how logic can prevail, how wild and crazy those theories were all this time. I think it's fair for them to answer, and for them to answer, not you.
Now that's how APTN Investigates episode's Secret of the Bay Chapter 4 begins. For 2 years, reporter Kenneth Jackson has been looking into the 2015 deaths of Matty Fairman and Tyler Maracle, two men from Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory. Police concluded that they drowned after stealing fish from another person's net in the Bay of Quinte, overloaded their boat, and drowned. They were labeled as thieves. But the families never believed it. Now Kenneth doesn't believe it either. And that's because the police got it wrong. To find out how this happened and what comes next, Kenneth joins me now. Hey, Kenneth, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, Kenneth, we played a piece of tape off the top of the show, and you're addressing several people speaking at a community meeting. Who are they and what are they doing in that meeting?
So I'm talking directly to the Chief Coroner of Ontario, Dirk, and his two boating experts that he brought in to a meeting to explain to the families of Tyler and Matty the results of their boating tests, which were sparked by me taking Tyler's boat back on the water a year earlier. When police determined they had drowned, they had stolen fish, and they had drowned or overweighted their boat, it was only a theory. They never tested it. So soon after the boat was pulled from the bay, the families buried it under some sort of Mohawk tradition that I haven't been able to confirm to this day even exists. There's a story behind that as well, but 8 years later, I come along and we dig the boat back up. And we put it back on the water because I want to test that police theory about how much weight the boat can take. They estimated about 900 pounds that the boys had, which I think was high. So I put it back on the water with 1,500 pounds. And I maneuvered it. I tried to sink it every which way you could think. And we recorded it all and we put it all online. The only way it would sink is if you actually, three men, push down on the side, like on the gun, on the deck side of the boat. That's the only way water would come over the side. So we ultimately proved through our work that the police theory was wrong. But then that's only goes so far. The coroner and the police have to do like their own investigation. So I told the families I'm going to be open to them contacting you because I can only take it so far. I've shown them, I've triggered their attention. They'll come in and do their own tests now. That's what they did. So they came in and they took measurements of the boat. They brought in a forensic analysis a guy who comes in, he reconstructed the boat forensically, digitally, and he made these computer models. And then the other guy was a naval architect, and he designs boats and uses computer programs for them not to sink. So this was a reverse way of going about things, where they had to try and build the same model on a computer, but try and sink it. So they put the boat, this computer model, using our boat, Tyler's boat, through all these tests on the computer, and basically came to the same conclusion as us. The police theory was wrong. It couldn't have been overloaded. And that's what you're hearing is me wanting to get more information from them at the meeting that they had with the families in March, explaining the results of their own tests. I wanted to dig a little deeper outside of their report, which is formal, and get their personal opinion.
So I remember just watching that scene.
It's floating just fine. How the hell did it go down then? They didn't have that much weight in here. They had maybe 700, 800 pounds. Maybe.
And that's even all your weight in one spot. Not all the weight. That's all your weight in one spot.
And it's just absolutely dramatic because, as a viewer, I don't know what's going to happen. And you've got the boat out there and you're just keep putting this weight on it and this weight on it and then testing it to see how much weight it can take. And you're pushing on the sides and everything. I'm just wondering, like, how did you even think to do that?
It wasn't, if I'm being honest, it wasn't the original reason why I wanted to dig the boat up. I knew that all the materials, all the netting, all the spears, the motor, the battery, everything that was in that boat when it was found was in the boat in the ground. I wanted to see everything. I didn't know why I wanted to do it originally. You know, for brevity and narrative sake, we've shortened the reasons why we did it in our stories because you don't want to get into this detail. But it was just an instinct. All right, it was just a gut feeling. Well, let's dig that sucker back up, and the families agreed to do it. And
was that hard for them?
Yeah, it was really hard. Even though they don't really understand why it was buried, and it was buried in the chaos of their grief, like literally a day or two after the boat was pulled out of the water, and the boys too. But it was hard because, sometimes you get as a reporter, you do these things, and you're so focused on finding the truth and going through the following the steps. You have to constantly remind yourself, these are open wounds.
Yeah.
These are real. And it was the first time I saw Tammy, Tyler's mom, cry. She's so tough, and she's the reason behind all of this. Like I don't take any credit for anything. She's really the one that has never given up, has refused to give in and believe anything otherwise. By some called a quack job or she's crazy, wouldn't let it go. Well, we proved that she was right.
Well, and you were starting to say, and I took you a bit off track there, about how you came up with this idea. Originally, you were digging up the boat for these other reasons. You were telling me how you got to the idea of actually testing the weight. Yeah,
so really I wanted to see how long the nets were, because these are gill nets, right? Like I had a feeling, dig it up, let's see what's inside of it. Partly was that there's these long gill nets, and gill nets are like these long nets, like this is 900 feet of netting. And the fish, they're migrating during spawning season, and they run into it and they get stuck, and then you slowly pull them in, and they're spread out across this long net. So it's never like 600 pounds or 800 pounds pulling in at once. You're pulling in a tiny bit, a little bit at a time. And so it turned out there was like 524 feet. I had some ideas, some theories. But then I was discussing it with a friend of mine in BC, Daryl Kipp, a logger of all people. He fights for membership issues, Peters First Nation. And we had an idea that, let's put it back on the water and see what happens to it. He wanted me to get like bodies and stuff, like corpses, like not real bodies, but he wanted to go really far with it. I'm like, let's just see let's start with the boat and see how far it goes.
Well, I guess after being buried, is a boat still functional? Has anything happened to it? And then once you discovered it was, you came up with this idea after this conversation of just putting weight and weight and weight and seeing what it would take to sink it. And it looked like it was pretty unsinkable.
It's solid. I even told the manufacturer, because I tracked down the manufacturer in Paris, Idaho, at Smoker Craft, and I said, this is a great advertisement for you guys. This boat's 50 years old, and it wouldn't go down. It was in the ground for 8 years, and we dug it out with a backhoe, build-all. And so this was one of the cool things about this story is that if I needed something, like I needed someone to dig up the boat, or I needed someone to haul the boat to there, or I needed bags of sand, the community responded for these families and said, yeah, you can have the sand's here. Here's the bags you need. Here's our worker. I'll give my workers a day off and a backhoe. It was Build All, it's called, it's a company. And, I'm not trying to give them a plug necessarily, but it's like, how cool is that he, not only did this owner give up his machinery for free, but his workers as well, they got paid to be there that day, which is an extraordinary thing, right? And so it was in the ground for 8 years, and we meticulously dug it out of the ground, and then it sat out all winter in the snow all winter. It wasn't until the following spring that I put it back on the water, just before the 9th anniversary of when the boys disappeared. Mm-hmm.
And so I guess the boat didn't sink, even though it would have been in worse condition than, ostensibly than when they had it, where there was a possibility.
This was near the end for me, by the way. If this boat, I told Tammy, I said to her, I haven't reported this ever, but I told her, I said, if this boat goes down, and I think it's going to, because how else can it not? I'm done. I can't do anything more for you. Mm-hmm. You have to accept. And maybe that's kind of would have been closure for her was, my boy did drown by accident, and I can move on now.
Yeah.
A part of her wanted that. A part of her wanted that closure one way or the other. Because when I started this, I told her, I go, I'm going to keep an open mind. The most obvious answer is probably the true answer. The police were probably right. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to collect all the facts, separate the rumors from all the facts, because you know how things can be on the res. There's a lot of rumors, a lot of misinformation. So I had to like really kind of narrow that down. But I remember saying to her, I go, Tammy, that day, I go, if it goes down, I'm done. And we show up to the water and it's choppy. It's windy as hell. And I was like, oh, great. Because it was calm that night. But then I was like, they're like, Kenny, you want to do it? I'm like, because I'm going in the boat, only me. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know what? If it holds now, that's even better. It even helps us even more. So we put all the weight in the boat and lowered it and we backed up into a trailer and put it in. So at one point, it's actually angling down hard. I'm like, oh my God, it's going in. Mm-hmm. It doesn't. And then it floats. And it didn't just float. I'm jumping around in it. I'm rocking it. I have like 800 pounds of sand in there, bagged. I move it around because at first I wanted it to mimic where the batteries were found. There was 4 car batteries. There was other things I wanted. So I measured, I tested the weight of the batteries, made bags that big of the same weight and put them in the same position. So, but then after I'm like, well, frig, let's just move things around. I put all the weight in the front and stood on it. It still wouldn't go down. You know, me and another guy, we're both 230 pounds. I was a little heavier then. We pushed down on the side. He's hanging off of it. I'm pushing down. You have to understand, what you see on the camera is I am trying my hardest to sink this boat. It wasn't until a third person came and helped us, Ettore Martin, who, ironically enough, few people understand how symbolic it was to have that man there, because he's supposedly one of the main police witnesses, saying that he was on the shore that night and didn't hear anything. That's not what Ettore tells me. That's not what I'm told Tammy, the mom, either. He heard something that night. He doesn't remember where it was, but he wasn't right in the water. He was 7 kilometers down the water. He was nowhere near where that boat went down. And I haven't reported this either, and eventually we will, and I don't mind saying it now because it's kind of cool. But Ettore helped us sink that boat, and police have used him to support their accident theory, saying we have a witness on the shore saying he didn't hear anything that night. No, he did hear something. He doesn't remember when he heard it. He heard cries for help and these screams. But he actually tells me he was way, way down the Bay of Quinte, nowhere near it. And so I asked him, why do police think that you were so close? He goes, I have no idea. Things have changed over the years. It's been 10 years. I don't know. But I wanted to purposely use him in that situation, like not use him, but have him involved, because I wanted police to see things are falling apart for your investigation right now. So much so that I'm using your witness.
I want to back up a little bit and just get you to take us into how you even got this story in the first place and what made you think there was something there. It sounded like it was a pretty closed case.
Yes, it is very closed. So it was 2018. Working out of this office. I was covering for Mark Blackburn as a web producer. But at that time, as you know, because you were our news director, I believe you were still here at that time, I was heavily involved in writing about child welfare, particularly deaths, children dying in Ottawa group homes, and, Indigenous kids from way up north, or First Nation, I should say, because they're First Nations children. And I was in the throes of that, a year into that investigation, but then I was covering for Mark. And Tyler's mom reached out to me, actually her daughter, and I ended up talking to her. And I gave it a brief look, and I was like, oh, this is hard. I don't have time for this right now. It wasn't the right time. And I said to her, one day maybe I'll come back to it. And then a few years later, I had not just been writing about kids dying in care. I've been writing about how they've been dying and what led them into that, and an absurd amount of sexual abuse up north. And I'm outing healers and chiefs and elders and people who have been abusing these children, and focused on one agency in itself, and did everything I thought I had to do to kind of tack it on the wall and go, this is what everyone needs to see. I've done my job. Now you know what's been going on, even though the people in the community know. Like you know what the cause is, some of this stuff. But I wanted to put it up there, and I wanted them to know up there that, finally someone was paying attention to this, and we're going to report on it and not be afraid to do it. But I was done, and I had enough, and I've still had enough of it. May 12th, 2023, so almost 2 years to the day, I was sitting out my front porch, and I prayed. I said, I'm done. What's next? Where do you want me to go?
You remember this?
Yeah, and it was, the thought that came in my head, like little whispers, right? The Creator has an odd way. If you listen quietly enough, I believe you can hear direction. And the little whisper was, Tammy, go back to Tyendinaga. So I reached out to someone. I said, "Is that investigation been solved?" They responded, "No, it's gone quiet." I go, "Has the mom gone quiet too?" Which is funny because if you know Tammy, she never gone quiet.
If you know an Indigenous mom,
she didn't go quiet, right?
Especially a Mohawk mom, yeah.
Yeah. So and they laughed, and that was it. I got back involved. I had some other things I had to wrap up first, and I started working with the mom, with Tammy, Tyler's mom, and we she started recording every. I tell everyone, I'm like, record everything. Mm-hmm. They're going to call you a liar. Record the police. Record every single person who you may think is involved in this. Get an audio. Get something. So she started recording people, and she started recording everyone you can imagine. And it allowed me, especially the police officer that was investigating it still, which was the OVP at the time. It allowed me to hear their theories.
Right.
Catch back up real quickly. Like really quick.
And so I'm assuming in all of this, because this happens all the time, that somebody loses somebody close to them and they're having trouble processing it. And sometimes it's difficult to tell whether they're having problems processing it and accepting it, or whether there was really something wrong with the investigation. And so I'm just taking it in all of this that there was a moment where you said, something's up here.
There was a couple of them. And you're right. I'm looking at Tammy, and she's in a never-ending loop of chaos.
Yeah.
Right? She doesn't go to bed. Even if you're sitting there talking to her, you can have a full conversation with her about anything else. She's thinking about her son.
It's the post-traumatic stress disorder.
She's not stopping.
Right? Like it's, yeah.
So, part of me is like, you have to, as a reporter, been doing it 20 years, you see that. You know that you have to be aware of that. Is it just this? Is it just a mom who refuses to give up? So you always kind of look into that. So when the boat didn't go down, I knew someone had to have killed these boys.
Okay, so through the whole investigation, you take it on, and it may just end up that it was exactly the tragedy as the police thought it happened. And it wasn't until that moment. Literally
that moment, a year into it, going into chapter 3, because we've done 4 chapters so far. I've already done 2 chapters, 2 documentaries. And this is what's important, I want people to understand. My mind was never made up. I kept it pretty center. And I've told the mom, I go, when I'm done this, I'll give you my opinion, but not until I'm done. So when that boat went on the water and it didn't sink, you see in chapter 3, I basically say to Tammy, I go, what do you think? She goes, someone had to do that. I go, someone had to have done it. It's the only way for that boat to go down. In the end, the boating experts come in, they do all their tests, and they give the chief coroner a few scenarios of possible ways it went down based on their testing, what evidence they have available to them. And that doesn't include witnesses or where items were found in the bay that day.
And this is before you take the boat out in the water?
No, this is after.
This is after, okay.
So basically, what I'm saying to you is, as we stand right now, the coroner has accepted 2 possible scenarios of how that boat went down as possible scenarios, based on our work, which was confirmed and done by the experts that they brought in. Someone did it, so it's a homicide. Possible homicide. Someone external force sunk that boat, got the boys in the water and sunk it, and they drowned as a result. Or, and this is still crazy, somehow, I kind of want to laugh when I say this, but somehow at 3 a.m. on April 26, 2015, in a channel at 15 feet deep, a large enough boat went through there, creating a wake with a large enough wave that came over the back of the boat and swamped it and sunk it. It's someone killed them, or it was a wave. I'm telling you right now, that wave makes no sense. Even the expert said, this doesn't really make sense, but technically this could have happened. That could, based on how the boat was found, because it was swamped, right? So what happens when it's swamped, it means it filled with water and it went down flat slowly. There was no signs of chaotic movements of a capsize, where it capsized. So even the expert was like, this is wild. But the chief coroner and his team still hedged it. And so instead of, they changed the manner of death, which is to a reporter a great deal. So it went from accident to undetermined because there's two competing manners of death. So the cause of death is drowning. How they drowned is the manner of death. And so they've accepted the fact that it was either homicide or an accident. Well, their accident theory is crazy. It's still crazy, which is, and behind the scenes, you don't see this, but I'm firing off emails. I'm like laying out all the scenarios. Because here's another wild thing is, so the experts said for that wave to have happened, the water would have had to come over. It had to be in the right, the boat had to be in the right spot where a wave came over the back of the boat. Well, here's a little nugget. That's impossible for many reasons, other than because it just doesn't make sense that boat would be out there that late at night in that shallow water. But the boat was, when it was found, was parallel to the shore. It was facing west. So how does a boat that's parallel to the shore, so it's sideways, if another boat goes by it, it's going to go over the side. If it goes over the side, it capsizes. It has to go over the back for it to swamp and fill with water the way they said. So how did that happen? It's impossible unless someone circled the boat with a boat and tried to sink it that way. Well, then that's not an accident. It's a homicide, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm saying. Maybe I'm getting a little too far into that, and I'm giving away some stuff I don't really want to give away. But you know what? I have a hard time holding that in because it's like, this is how close we are to proving everything. And there's other things going on too, but it's like even how far I've gotten them, what they're sitting on a ledge that they're going to fall off of because it doesn't make any sense.
I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I think we've got some tape there. We've talked a lot about the weighing down of that boat, and I think we've got some tape of that moment.
This family, for the last 2 years, both families have lived under these theories and it was like a cement weight was put on them. And I wanted to know, based on experts of actually know boating and water and how logic can prevail, how wild and crazy those theories were all this time. I think it's fair for them to answer and for them to answer, not you.
So what was that moment like when the boat wouldn't sink?
I kept thinking, what am I doing wrong? And if you've watched the full tape, we put everything online, but we removed the audio just for legal reasons, like because I say some things that probably wasn't, that need everyone to hear. But I would say to the people on the shore, to Tyler's dad or whomever, I go, what else can I try? What am I doing wrong? Because this is not even coming close to sinking.
And then they're seeing that. So for the families, what is it like? Like as they're watching this, and it's hitting them, right? Like it's got to be hitting them that you're finding something out here.
They're all on the shore. They're all watching it. They see the cameras. Tammy's sitting in the car because it's windy. It's cold. It's middle of April, 2024, and it's a bittersweet moment for them. Because like I said, I think part of, at least for Tammy, and definitely for Robin too, for Tyler's parents, I think they wish that it was just an accident, and maybe, and particularly Robin, Tyler's dad, can we just move on, right? Mm-hmm. And when I first met him, this was his last straw. He goes, "This is it. If this doesn't work, she has to accept this." Almost the kind of way he said to me. He's a pretty straightforward guy. I think everybody was convinced. Robin has never looked back. He's fully involved, fully believes 100% now. Not that you never did, but it's 10 years past. You're like, okay, come on, we have to whatever. There's reasons why you can't judge any parent who's lost someone. That's what I learned in this. You don't judge what they do or say or their emotions. You need to understand that can shift and change and as day by day. And I'm not saying Robin never did agree with it. I think part of him just wanted to move on with his life a little bit. But it was a whole, if they represented the community, which it turns out to be quite true, it was like the whole community just exhaled and was like, we knew it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in one way, if the boat sank, it's like an ending. Like there's still questions, but there's kind of an answer. But the boat floating just keeps it open. That there's still like there's a bigger question because the cause of death is not what they thought.
You go from crying and hugging it out and saying, okay, it's time to move on, to getting fired up and going, let's keep working harder.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so then there's this meeting with the coroner, between the parents and the coroner. Tell me about that meeting. Tell me how you got access to it.
So by covering all the First Nation child welfare deaths, I realized that this chief coroner, Dirk, he's pretty proactive, kind of an extraordinary human being, as much as you can be in a position like that. And he'll go to the meetings. He'll fly to Poppet Hill First Nation. He'll fly to these remote areas and meet face-to-face with a family member who's lost a loved one in care. He'll do investigations. He'll order panel reviews. He'll do things. I knew that these meetings existed, but reporters don't get access to this. You don't get to sit in on them. You'd have to smuggle in a recorder or something with a family member, but you're not getting in on them. With this one, because I was so heavily involved, and because of Tammy and Bev, Tyler's mom's too, but like Tammy and her family would be like, you talk to Ken. Ken speaks for us, essentially. That's what it became. I'm the representative of the family now, so you talk to me, not them. You talk through me if you need to talk to them. And, to a certain degree, eventually he started calling, because he's not allowed to talk to me. It has to be a family member. So it was this awkward situation where it's like, okay, the family wants me to talk to Ken, but the legislation says I'm not allowed.
Right.
I'm going to get in trouble here. How do I do this? I can't talk to Kenneth about deaths, ongoing death investigations. He's not, I'm a reporter, which really just means I'm just like you or I or any person on the street. It doesn't give me any sort of clout or a professional service or anything like that. I am just a regular person, like any other reporter. But it put him in a tough spot. But that's what we do. We put you in a tough spot. So when these experts showed up to do their testing, cameras were rolling. Let's get used to this now. We're going to be here every time. You're not doing this without us here. There's no way. We don't trust anyone to do this right. Even though I know you, Dirk, and I know how well you work, and I think I know your heart a bit. This family's been through the ringer with multiple investigations and always coming to the same conclusion that it was an accident, that they were thieves. We're going to be here. There's no way you're touching that boat without a camera on you. It's not happening. So then when he shows up to the meeting, we're in the basement of the Mohawk Community Center. APTN provided me two camera operators, 4 cameras, car, everything I needed, and we were set up waiting for them. So as soon as they show up, you're walking into cameras. It's a studio, essentially, in the basement of this community center. And you've already done it once, so no big deal. And so, but in the beginning of the meeting, Dirk's like, hey, everyone sees the cameras, just so you know, we don't do this. We've never done this. I'm not allowed to do this, but you want it this way. So we're going to give it to you, what you want. And that's how it was. The families wanted it, and Dirk, to his credit, relented. And I think he probably did get in trouble for it.
And we've got a little bit of tape inside that meeting. Can you set us up and tell us what we're going to hear here?
Well, he's walking. So we're setting up. Everyone's arrived. I've got chairs lined up at the front. There's a panel of there's a table at the front with the experts and the families. There's like 9-10 chairs around them. And Dirk walks in and introduces himself and tells everyone who he is. And he says, like, you see the cameras, right? And then he goes on to talk about it.
I also start off and say that it's very, very, well, we don't do media work. We don't have discussions in the media about any deaths. In fact, the Coroner's Act tells me I can't. It legislatively tells me I can't. I know that you're all here and you all see the media happening, and so I recognize that that's something that you are comfortable with and supportive of. And so we're not going to say no to that. We believe you should hear all the information we have.
So that's, that's a really, there's a lot of texture, I guess, to that moment, because you've really got the trust of the whole community there. And, you've got somebody who's an official giving in to do something that they've never done before. You know, I've got to ask you, chapter 4 hangs on this like cliffhanger, and you're going to go meet somebody. Can you tell us about that? Who are you going to meet there?
It's someone that I think was on the water that night. It's someone that I know should have been in and around that area. And it's someone that the family thinks killed their boys.
But you can't tell us who it is.
I think it kind of gives away too much. But I do speak to them. They do let me in their home. And I'll tell you this, people are shocked that I went over and met with this person and where I met with them. Because based on how they presume to be so unsafe. But there's been a comment about this story. Everyone says, oh, you're fearless or you're this or that, whatever. There's a calmness to this. I don't treat any of these people when I approach them who I think are involved or whatever any differently than I talk to you right now. I talk to them the exact same way. I don't have my mind made up with them at all about what they've done. I want to hear what they have to say, and I'm listening to what they're saying. I left chapter 4 on that because I wanted to show that we're not done. I could stop right now. I've done my job. I've done what I was supposed to do. And most reporters would be okay with that. And that's fine. And I'm not saying that's wrong. But I left it on that because I want to show that I'm not done. I don't care who gets called in to reinvestigate this. I don't care about any of that. I'm gonna solve this now. This is my story to solve.
My breathing, I guess my lungs. Supposed to have a lung transplant, but they say he might not live any longer and might get sicker. He's sick all the time, so
So you're hanging on just long enough to find the truth, eh?
Yes, sir. See what happened to our boy. We know what happened to him.
So who's that we're listening to there, Ken?
That's Tyler's father, Robin, and he's dying. He has about 20% lung capacity. He needs a lung transplant. And if I'm being truthful, in every chapter I've done, if there's a moment where I tear up, it involves that man. There's something about him, something about his connection to his son, how close they were, how similar they were, how he kills them, how they hung out together, fixed machines together. You know, I'm outside of this, but I feel it. I'm a human being. I'm a father. I feel it. And right now, it makes me like, it's just, I wrote that. I picked that clip like for our documentary. Like, I know, even when I've seen it in edit over and over and over again, when I watch it, there's certain moments in every chapter, and it usually always involves Robin, where I get a little emotional, where I was like, it's like, and I think it's important to feel that. Or I feel it. I feel the magnitude of everything. And I feel the weight that's on that man every single day. Wanting to know who killed his son. Knowing they're probably in the community. May even see them every day when he's out and about. They may even say hello to him. You know, or maybe they put their head down every time they see him. There's people who do that too. They're too afraid to look him in the eye. I don't know. I carried a little bit of that with me. That's Tyler's father, and he's, you know, there's something about him and Tyler, and why I want to keep going with this.
And how's he doing now?
He seems to be doing a bit better. Like he's got certain medication or whatnot, but he's on the transplant list, and he may not live to see it. He may only find out who killed his son in death, right? He may have to die before he finds out. This might take another 5 years, 10 years. Who knows how long it's going to take? I'm committed to finding out. And I'm not motivated to solve it before he dies. That's not in my control. I hope it happens. But it's not something I can force. This is something like organic. I've noticed with this. Even though I came in 8 years after they died, in waves, information comes to me. Someone comes to me. 2 days before the chapter 4 came out, I was in Tyendinaga meeting with somebody who gave me information that literally, if they confirm it, I've solved it. That's how close I am. they confirm one thing for me: this case is over, and it's not just an accidental killing; it's first-degree murder. That's how close I am right now. That's how close I am to this. And I don't say me, Tammy, all of us. I just forgive me for putting it on me, because it really.
Well, you mean as the investigative journalist, yeah.
That's how close we are, right? But really, like Tammy, Tyler's mom.
I was going to ask about Tammy because I just can't imagine she's like looking for closure one way or the other. She, like you said, was cycling through this. How is she doing now?
She's the tip of the spear. Tammy's the first one through the door. She's the first one. She's the one who puts on a hidden microphone and a camera and goes and meets people. She's the one that will go right to you and scream right in your face. There's video we have of her being called awful names by people in the community, just one person, and called her like a drug crack addict. You name awful names. Tammy holds her ground. And she's like, no, I'm not budging. I think you're involved. You know what I mean? And so like, Tammy's tough. She can handle a lot. But you saw her in chapter 4 when they changed the manner of death from accident to undetermined. She breaks down. You know, Matty's mom, Bev, is having a hard time with this. This is a real struggle. Like, these families are forever impacted by what should have been just a simple night out on the water and come back in. It might seem crazy to us to go out in the middle of the bay at 1:30 in the morning to spear fish, but that's the culture there. Mm-hmm. You go at night, right? You go out during the day too, but you go at night. You see them. They're migrating. It's not uncommon. They should have came home like they did every other night. They didn't come home because something happened. And I don't know exactly what. I have my theories, and I'll keep them to myself for now because I don't want to, get too much into it because I don't think it's fair because it's just based on some evidence, but mostly just what I think happened. But something happened on that water. And I believe someone killed them because, and this is indisputable fact, that boat, those boys couldn't have sunk the boat the way it went down. Mm-hmm. So if they couldn't do it, someone else had to do it. And if it wasn't someone, the coroner's experts say either a big wave, which is insane to even think that. And even the expert was like, this is kind of far-fetched, but this is technically, that could happen. But that was accepted by the coroner's office. As was someone sunk it on purpose. As a two competing manners of death, homicide and accident, a wave or someone forcing it down. Well, the wave's crazy for many reasons. Somebody sunk that boat the way it went down. That's the only way it went down, the way it did. And so someone's involved. Someone's responsible for that. And I have a list of people that I'm still going to go contact. I still have to go see in person. People who now, 10 years later, have a lot to lose, right? Maybe they have kids now. Maybe they have jobs. Maybe they were in different circumstances back then. Maybe they're more inclined to talk now than they were 10 years ago because they're afraid of losing everything. Maybe they're afraid of sticking up or defending someone, or protecting somebody. But breaking through, especially, you know how this is, Karyn. And, I grew up next to Tyendinaga. It's a different world. And this is what police have never understood. The OPP has never understood. What you think makes sense normally doesn't always make sense in the community. Like, logic doesn't always prevail. Like, it's not like there's a different way of doing things. And in this community, there is punishment that is enforced in other ways that people may think seems normal. Putting someone in the water to punish them for you thinking them stealing nets and leaving them there to drown is a completely plausible scenario in Tyendinaga. And there's ways I can prove it. So that that information's out there now. And I told Tam, I go, for the long, you're seeing more and more people come forward now with information because now they're not alone. It's not, they don't have to, I think for all this time, they're like, well, I know something, but it's just me. Do I really want to be the person to be like, all this hangs on? Like, I have to be the one to like prove they didn't do it. Now that we've proven what we've proven, more people are coming forward because they're just piling on now and they're safe. There's safety in numbers. And like I said, this close, like a inch away from like one call away from proving it was first-degree murder because it was premeditated.
it sounds like the families aren't done. It sounds like you're not done. And it sounds like there's going to be another chapter of this.
Yeah, I've said online maybe the fall, maybe later. Who knows? But it's not done yet.
Oh, thank you for speaking to me today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Kenneth Jackson is an award-winning journalist with APTN Investigates. You can find all 4 chapters of Secrets of the Bay at aptnnews.ca/investigates. This episode of InFocus was produced by Mark Blackburn and Charmaine Stryker. It was edited by Jesse Andrushko and hosted by me, Karyn Pugliese, sitting in for Sierra Bettens. Now, if you're enjoying the show, let us know by leaving a rating and review. Not only do we love to hear from you, but it gives those algorithms a kick, and it helps people find us. Also, did you know APTN is a charity? So if you like what we do, you can help by going to our website, aptnnews.ca, and supporting us with a contribution. You can find more APTN podcasts like APTN News Brief and Truth in Politics on aptnnews.ca/podcasts or on your favorite player. Thanks for listening.
Hello, I'm Rick Harp, host of APTN News Brief, a daily podcast version of the nightly broadcast of APTN National News. Available on all major podcast platforms, APTN News Brief is your quick way to hear the headlines every weekday morning. Learn more at aptnnews.ca/podcasts.